Photosynthetic. Welcome to another episode, Meet the Grower. This week, someone you may know from various streams, various comment sections. He's been on my show a couple times. Guys, ChetterBob13. ChetterBob, welcome, sir.
Hey, Matt, how's it going? Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure.
Stoked to have you here, sir.
I was wondering when I was going to get my chance to be an independent video.
Hey, you know what? I've certainly enjoyed having you on the streams and the insights that you offer and the fact that you just seem to be everywhere all the time, you know, offering advice, chatting with people and whatnot. I knew it was definitely time to have you on. So that being said, just to kick off the show here, guys, if you do like what you're seeing, head on over to Patreon. You can support me over there. I've just started up a Discord channel that we're going to open up for everybody via invite. So you got to be a viewer and that sort of thing. But Patreons get special access to special things. Otherwise, would appreciate any support you can give. ChetterBob, let's talk about some growing, sir.
Yes, sir. That's why we're here, right?
All right. So we've definitely had the chance to chat a couple of times through some of the live streams and whatnot. So I know a bit about you and your growth style and how you like to get things done, but I don't necessarily know about you. ChetterBob, give me your background, your life story, if you will.
Oh, my life story. Well, I was born in 1980, and I'm 40 years old. I've been growing for 20 years. I first started growing after I fell off a cliff and crushed my throat.
Well, that's not fun.
And so, yeah, it was a blast, It was a dare, swan dive off cliff. But, shortly after that, I started growing cannabis because I had family members that had been addicted to pharmaceuticals and opiates and stuff. And I just knew that with the family history and my personality, I didn't want to go down that road. And I knew cannabis was a much safer alternative, even back in 99, 2000. So, but I'm from Maine, a island off the coast of Maine called MDI. And I've been growing organic since I started. I had some really good friends that introduced me to organic growing rather than salt-based growing, synthetic salts. And 4 years ago, Blue turned me on to living soil, and I haven't looked back.
Yeah, and Blue, wonderful guy. He's been on the show a couple times. We did Meet the Grow. Actually, I think he was the second or third guest. And of course, you guys are friends and whatnot. You chat with Blue and share stories, share grow tips and whatnot. And of course, one of those I think is Avocadotech. Let's talk about.
One of those is Avocadotech. Blue and I have known each other since grammar school, so we're from the same island. And I had taken a couple of years off and had a family. Then cannabis became recreational, medical, so I started growing again. And messages popping it up. So I went over to Blue's house because he wanted to show me something cool. And I went over and he showed me his living soil setup. And then he said, check this out. I'm just starting to roll with this. I think it's really cool. Like, look at what's going on. And I looked and he had this avocado. And I was like,
what the hell?
Yeah. It's like, why do you have an avocado in there? And he's like, look at this. And he popped that thing open. Anyone that's familiar with Avocadotech by now knows what you see after a couple days when you lift that thing up. It's just bulging with worms. It's almost moving the avocado. And I was blown away. I was actually kind of sickened at first because I wasn't familiar with that form of organic growing. I was like, oh man, that's gross. And then he explained to me what was actually going on with the worms feeding on the dry amendments and that coming out in the castings in a little bit more refined, easily more breakdownable medium for the microbiology.
Bioavailable.
Yeah. And man, I was so blown away. I think I literally went home. I got permission from my wife and I bought some lights and I bought some cloth pots and a couple Rubbermaids, and started with this living soil that I have right here now. I've just added to it to fill the 4x4. And the first thing I did was put down an avocado with some dry amendments in it. And it was so cool to see that Horton Here's a Who moment, you know. I say that often, but it's all I can think of when I pop that thing open and I see all the mites and the orbital mites and the springtails and the worms and just everything going on there. I'm like,
oh, the life just loves it. It's so cool, man.
It really is. It's amazing. And it's so cool that it comes from just, you know, something that a lot of people discard or let rot, and that's what they love. And it's just beyond that, it's like it's a superfood, you know. Like, I mean, it's a superfood for us. It's gotta have some of that beneficial superfoody stuff for plants, you know, amino acids, sugars, carbs, all that beautiful stuff.
Oh, the good stuff that we like, the good stuff that the plants like.
Yeah, or not so much the plants, but the biology.
The biology, yeah. No, you're
in
right,
the soil, you know.
Feed the soil, soil feeds the plants.
That's right.
Now, talking more a bit about the Avocadotech specifically, one of the things Blue really touched on when I interviewed him was he talked about how he likes to play it safe, per se, and minimize what he's putting in his mix. And I agree to that, in that I've overloaded the avocados with too much stuff, and the worms kind of back off and they don't really touch it.
Yeah.
Now, Blue said that you, however, like to push that envelope a little bit and experiment. Let's talk about what you've done and what you like to do with the experimentation.
I do. Where Blue would be a minimalist for Avocadotech, I guess I would be a maximum overdrive, you know.
Nice. Full speed.
I've done lots of videos. Some of them are available on my YouTube, and some of them are on Instagram. But I really like to pack it with amendments. And being a former like chef and working in restaurants, I just have this uncanny knack for being able to see measurements. You know what I mean? And how they should go into something. Oh, yeah. It just years of working in restaurant. So I get a good sense of the mixture and at the stage, and I just kind of have a feel, and I pack it pretty full, and I haven't had one that the worms haven't touched yet. Like you mentioned, I have seen it happen in my other grow that I oversee that my buddy tried to do. He did the same thing. It was almost just like solid amendments, you know, yeah. Very little. It was like anyways, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's what I found was I went too heavy with things like the malted barley flour and the kelp meal, and it's just, instead of being that softer goo that the worms really like, it was more of a harder paste. So I could see how they wouldn't really dig that. What kind of stuff are you adding in to keep the worms happy?
So depending on the stage, like you have your veg pods, you have your pre-flower pods, and then you have your flower pods. And those are laid down, I'd say about 4.5 weeks apart. So in the veg, I'll put, I use a lot of build-a-soil amendments and their micronized mineral, water soluble things like 10-5-10 and their Build a Bloom and stuff like that. So they have their Thrive N, I think it was, which was their nitrogen one. So I'll put a couple tablespoons of that into the avocado mix. For the veg, I'll put some BioPhos for phosphorus. I'll put some humic acids, some kashi to get that biological life inside there really kind of molding up and helping also break stuff down.
Love the wakashi.
Yeah, so that's like my veg pod. My pre-bloom pod is usually, you know, P and K, you know, potassium or and phosphorus, high doses of that. Usually no nitrogen, no nitrogen adding in. And then I do just a little bit heavier on the phosphorus for the flower pods, and just subtle on the potassium.
Yeah.
So I kind of follow that NPK, and then I'll add in like humic acids and maybe some silica here and there. Just those smaller little boosts. And the reason I pack them a little bit more full is because in 3.5 years I've never top dressed.
Mm-hmm.
So I know that my soil is probably lacking a little something, the proper ratio.
Yep.
That you'd want in a bed. So I load them pretty full so that there's that real spike, organic nutrient spike right above the root zone. So it doesn't really have to search super far to find its food source. Like my roots, when I pull them up, I mean, they're not huge. I could pull up the whole root ball. So
I see. So you're doing more of just straight living soil and not full on no-till. You'll remove the root ball when the cycles end, or do you tend to leave it in? How do you like to do that?
When I started, I was removing the root ball and planting back in the hole. Yep. But then I just came to the realization that I don't even have to do that.
Yeah.
I can just cut it at the base of the stalk and let it go. And whether I dig the hole and it kind of digs into that root ball a little bit, like that's secondary. It's not a big deal. The roots from the new plant are going to just shoot off everywhere. So
totally. And they'll take up those old pathways as the old roots shrink up and die and whatnot. And it's such a neat system.
And it's you don't even, like, if you cut the stalks like 6 inches, above the soil, in about 10 to 14 days, everything's decomposed and the worms have gotten in there, and you can basically just twist it and pull it out, and it's
Well, I just reset my beds a couple days ago, and I just chopped right at the ground level and planted around them. Good to go.
Yeah.
Let's dig in a little bit more about the grow room, and maybe when things didn't go so well. Let's talk about a big failure when that grow didn't work out at all, or when you got a whole bunch of seeds like I did not too long ago. Tell me about it.
Man, I haven't had anything that I would really consider a big failure.
Nice.
I've probably, the closest thing I could come to is when I grow outdoors and I've misjudged a certain cultivar timing wise, and I've just either lost it to the cold, because as you know, up in Canada, it's warm up until this day, and then it's like freezing.
It's like switch, just boom.
Yeah.
And then you get a week of warm weather about 2.5 months in, and everybody gets confused. So
and so where I am, that's probably the biggest thing that I've been disappointed in with my grows is just losing stuff to bud rot. Mostly my outdoor grows are what I'm disappointed in. My indoor grows, not to toot my own horn, but they've come out pretty well as far as I'm concerned. I haven't been disappointed in any of them.
So then, to that point, do you prefer the indoor or the outdoor?
I have always preferred the controlled environment of the indoor grow setting.
I can appreciate that for sure.
Where I am on the coast of Maine, we just have so many environmental influences and in peaks and valleys that there's nothing consistent like you find out in California with consistent 85, 95 degree weather with like no humidity. We're just always like this. And so, yeah, that's
the environment lends itself to wanting to be controlled for sure.
It does. And indoors, like, you got to deal with environment, but if you set things up correctly, the environment controls itself. So it's, I don't know, to me, it's a lot easier to grow this way indoors. Yeah, you know, just growing living soil, everything is doing the work for me. You know, I don't have to measure anything really except avocado, you know, the stuff I put in the avocados, but 3 times a harvest. You know,
Yep.
I'm not measuring newts indoors. I'm not no pHing, no like I come down to my grow room and I sit here.
Look
And
at the
I look at
plants and
I do, and I'm like, oh well, this little branch down here isn't really gonna get anything. I'll cut it off. And then I'm like, oh man, I'm tired. I might have to go take a nap. I'll be back in a little, you know?
Yeah, no, I hear you. And I find that too. It's you have your working days when you're growing organic. And those working days, they come sort of harvest day, transplant day, feeding day. But otherwise, you're just sitting there, you know, wondering if the Blumats need a tweak or maybe I need to add some water to that reservoir. It's minimal, man.
And especially with like a plant count, you know, like, I mean, it's even more minimal, you know,
Yeah.
it's tip is what it is. It's so easy.
Yeah. When you're out in the grow room, what would you consider to be that favorite tool, the one that comes in the handiest?
Oh man, let's see. You know, I would have to say, I don't know if this qualifies as a tool. Would the Blumat system qualify as a tool?
1000%, man, and that would be
Okay.
right near the top of my list for sure.
Well, then I'm going to say that because, you know, full disclosure, I have always been horrible at water.
Yeah. It's one of the hardest things about gardening. Absolutely.
It really is. And it's one of the things that leads to the most problems.
Yeah.
And I've never grown a cultivar long enough to really get to know it and really get to understand what it thrives in for a moisture content for the soil.
Yeah.
You know, and even, I mean, 20 years ago, it was just bloom, 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 top water, you know, that's until it was soaked, until, you know, it was coming out the bottom. And
yep.
That
you just didn't know.
Oh yeah, you didn't know, or I didn't know. I'm sure there were people that 20 years ago, no one told me about anything. I had a couple buddies, but you know, they were like, yeah, just pour water over the top until you see some come out of the bottom. You know,
in certain grow styles, that's what works. And that's how you're supposed to do it, right?
Right. Yeah. And I don't know. It's I feel pretty fortunate for the way I learned how to grow, but it was a long road, that's for sure.
Yeah. No, watering, I think, pruning, doing any sort of defoliation, especially if you're a new grower, those are the real challenging things that, unfortunately, a lot of it's just, you got to do it, experience it, and learn by feel. And sometimes you have to make those mistakes. So again, you can learn it and experience it.
Yeah. You know, the sweet isn't as sweet without the bitter sort of stuff, you know?
Totally. And, you know, I think the key thing to that, too, is you can egregiously fuck up your grows and still come up with some pretty darn good plants. Like this most recent run, the Big Berthas there that I just took down, they spent 60 hours in light. I had left my bloody lights on for 60 hours due to a daylight savings time screw up.
Yep.
And I got a monster yield out of it. Like,
yeah,
these plants are resilient. It's okay to screw up because that's how you learn.
And you know what? It's even better. Growing in living soil allows you a lot more room for error.
I would agree to that for sure.
You know, and yeah, but also like the Blumats allow that room for error too. You know, that consistent moisture, like once you get it dialed in, oh my goodness, it's such a beautiful thing. I'm another thing that Blue turned me on to. You know, I'm so thankful that he's my buddy and he showed me what he was doing.
Well, I mean, they were nice enough to name them after him, so I mean, hey,
there you go.
There you go. So keeping with that train of thought, what was the best grow? I mean, when everything came together, the buds were forearm size, dripping with resin. Tell me about it.
Oh, man. I probably about maybe 6 grows ago. Was like the best one that I can remember. I grew Pink Gorilla from Mosca Seeds,
Okay.
which is Gorilla Glue #4 crossed with their Pink 2.0. And I was growing Sour Tangy from Flying High Automatics,
Okay.
which is just sort of a small seed company that kind of reworks other gear. And man, I was blown away with both of those cultivars. I had flowers that were like, in living soil and scrog, you don't end up with those really solo cup necessarily sized flowers. But I was very happy with ending up with like 6.5, 7 gram colas.
Oh, very nice.
But like 60 of them of each cultivar. So it was a huge haul. The Pink Gorilla pressed out flower rosin at 33%. And
ooh, man,
as a rosin guy, that return is huge.
That's massive.
It is. And the Sour Tangy was, I can't even quite explain it. It was like a soft skunk that was like shitting clementine peels, or it was
just the look on your face, man. It was just trying to. I love it.
20 years of selling wine, I can describe stuff okay, but it's all in you got to use the face, so people really get that emotional sense to it, because words are words, but when you show it on your face, they can see it too.
Absolutely. No, that sounds like it would have been a fantastic grow. So going off then specific cultivars, specific strains, because I'm still learning the difference between the two. What do you look for in a strain? What would you consider your favorite?
Oh, I'll say right now, I don't have a favorite, because I'm still growing, and there's still so many things out there to grow.
Truth.
And I haven't found one that I've wanted to keep forever. Even the Pink Gorilla and the Sour Tangy that I really, really enjoyed, I grew it for maybe 2 or 3 runs, and that was it. Because I know there's so much stuff out there that I want to try.
Here we go. Yeah, I hear you.
I have this friggin' vault of higher genetics, that I want to go through, that could be my favorite. But probably the one I've enjoyed most so far, I grew a bubble gum probably in 2008. Right around 2008. And that was a mistake seed that must have fallen out of the bubble gum that I grew before that.
Okay.
And it fell into the same pot that started growing right beside it. And I just left it in flower right from seed. And it ended up being about, I don't know, 1.5 feet, maybe 2 feet tall. And it was all just one cola.
Yep.
It looked like one of those little spears, like you wanted to throw it and have it like at a dartboard. And, it wasn't the biggest, largest grow, but there was something special about it, that I didn't chop it. I just let it go. I didn't do anything extra to it. And it came out just so beautiful. And that was like my first sort of sight at stop fucking with the plant, stop fucking with shit. Look at how beautiful this turned out. Just letting it grow by itself.
Yeah. It's interesting that you say that, because I've been playing around with a lot of different training techniques. I really like to experiment. And this last run that I just transplanted in a couple days ago, I just let the plants do their things. I didn't really train them at all. And just the growth, it's very interesting to see how these plants like to go and like to grow. now talking about training, what do you like to do for training? Do you like to low stress, high stress? Do you just leave them be?
I guess it kind of depends on my timing.
Yeah.
And where I am and where I want to be in my grow. Like, as you can see,
Nice canopy.
I run a scrog screen, and my scrog screen is a 4x4 section of lobster trap wire. Another thing that Blue turned me on to. He asked me probably, about a month before I started growing, he asked me for some lobster trap wire and told me it was for a scrog. And I was like, oh, that's so fucking smart, man. Like, my God.
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt. I'm just looking at it going, that's like, what's the square on that? Is that a 2-inch square?
No, it's 1.5 inches.
Ooh, that would be perfect.
So, yeah, so I mean, that's about as low stress as it gets, is letting it grow up. And it literally just grows horizontal. You can go in there and just take your arm and go like that. You don't have to wait for it to get, way above the 6-inch or 5-inch square and kind of try and bend it and tuck it back under. So, but I will sometimes, if I have a veg plant that I've let veg too long and it's very large, because this screen is only about 15 inches off the soil line.
Yeah.
I will high stress train. I'll snap limbs and I'll rub them and bend them, and just the whole plant would be like, saggy fingers,
beat up and looking harsh.
Yeah, I'm not afraid to hurt the girls.
Yep.
But they bounce back so well and quickly. It's hard not to do.
Yeah. And I think sometimes too, it's also really strain dependent, even pheno dependent to that point. I've, just finished running my first official mini pheno here, and just the variety of difference in the ways that I had to approach each plant. But then taking that knowledge and bringing that forward to the next run that I'm doing with it is certainly helpful. So to that point, clones, seeds, mixture of both, what do you like?
So let's see. I prefer seeds. I prefer regular seeds. There's just something methodical about going through that process. Maybe it's because I've had kids. I don't know. Yeah.
Well, that's seed vigor too, right? I mean, you do get that nice growth rate from the seeds. So
you do, and I like the variance.
Yeah.
The differential, the mom and the pop. You get to just the mystery of it. I prefer not to have something that's, as much as I'm able to, have something that suits someone else's taste, if that makes sense. Because most breeders, let's be honest, they breed for their own personal taste, what they want in a flower, and that isn't necessarily always what you want or what I want, so at least I get the chance to kind of manipulate that as much as I can using regular seeds.
Gotcha.
That said, there have been some cultivars that are only in feminized seed, and
or only in clone. So
yeah, and clones, like I've had some clones shipped to me, and I've quarantined them. I think it's the first person I've ever really taken clones from, besides Blue, in 20 years.
Yeah.
And that's Boneyard Seeds.
Okay.
And he sent me some fabulous cuts that, being from Maine and where I am, like I wouldn't be able to, one, probably afford them, or two, even be able to get to a place to get them from legit source.
Right.
So yeah, but primarily I definitely am a seed guy.
Steering the conversation now towards legalities and prohibition. What are your thoughts on, how things are going in the States? Do you see full federal legalization happening anytime soon, or is this a fight that's going to be going on for a while still?
Oh man, I think that that's a tough one, because while I think the federal government will go legal, I think it's going to be such a battle between the commercial industry and the home industry that it's going to be like legal isn't going to be necessarily like legal for everyone. You know, so I don't necessarily know if we're ever going to get to that full status of legal where everyone can just grow as many plants as they want. You know what I mean? Like, to me, that would be legal.
Yeah, I mean, like bottling beer, you know, at home. I mean, there's no limits on that. You want to fill up your basement full of homebrew? Fill your boots.
Exactly.
So,
and you know, like, oh man, there's just so many, I'll say it again, like variables to the commercial legal market that are going to be really dangerous. You know,
yeah.
it's really going to be like when alcohol first, you know, came back. People are like they're going to be making money hand over foot, but they're going to be making it with like poisonous products, and I don't know.
Yeah, it's really interesting to see how things play out. I've had the chance to visit other legal markets, like Seattle, for example, and even after just a couple of years of those being fully legalized, the quality of product and whatnot, going in the dispensary, that sort of thing, it was really a pleasurable experience, and just seeing that sort of that mature level of market, what it can do. And then when Canada came fully legal, it was like, what kind of garbage is this? It was just the dispensaries, the systems that they were setting up, the availability of stuff. So it's very much an industry that's going to have a tremendous amount of growing pains if I think they do make that final step towards full federal legalization. But even then, it's going to be different states, I think, where you're going to see battlegrounds, if you will. It's interesting. But, you know, in chatting with all the different growers over the series here, I think one of the key things that has really stuck out is removing stigma, getting that generational approach and whatnot. So you yourself as a parent, and I'm not sure how old your kids are, but do you plan on teaching them? Have you talked to them about cannabis?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. You know, growing up, cannabis was completely illegal. Like, and my parents never talked to me about it, except for like, if we ever catch you with it, we're gonna fucking kick your teeth.
This is your brain on drugs kind of thing.
Yeah. My mother, I don't think she even knows what cannabis looked like until she found it under my bed. You know what I mean? Like,
what's this oregano?
Yeah, but you know, my dad's an old Vietnam vet, and I didn't even know that he smoked until I was like 17. Yeah. I mean, I was a late bloomer. I was an athlete. Like, I thought cannabis was I was one of those gateway, it's a gateway drug. I don't even want to be associated.
No, it's the misinformation, right? From the 80s.
Yeah.
And whatnot.
And like, we didn't even have DARE. It was just like my parents like scaring me about it. And how horrible is that to have a dad that, like, you know, and that was like, you remember that commercial, like the dad sitting in the bedroom smoking, and then it was like the son sitting in the bedroom smoking beside him, and he's like, how can I talk to my son about cannabis? Or, you know, like one of those. It was like that. But, you know, I was so mad at him for all the years he was like, rah, 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 rah. He's like, rah, rah, rah.
Yeah, it's weirdly hypocritical and stuff. For me, it's been interesting because my daughters just sort of hit their teens as things legalized here, so that made that conversation a lot easier.
Yeah, but as far as my own family goes, I'm very open with them about what cannabis is, and one thing that I make sure to tell them is that it is cannabis. It isn't weed. It isn't marijuana. It isn't dope. It isn't any of those slangs. Yeah. It's cannabis, because first of all of those other uh, words have very negative connotations.
Yeah, derogatory slang terms, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. And they just, when the older generation hears marijuana, you know, any of those, they go right to their old ways of being, you know, that misinformation. But for some reason, if you say hemp or cannabis, it points the conversation in a different direction. And that's what I really think our community needs to do, is start taking ourselves a little bit more seriously, you know?
Yeah, I've been a big proponent of just calling it cannabis. With the occasional, I'll refer to it as weed, because let's face it, that's just bloody descriptive. So,
yeah. Hey, did I
ahead.
even answer your question?
No, I think you did. I think you did, for sure.
Okay.
And you know, it's about teaching the young the right way, the way that we should have been taught, that we had to find out on our own. Bringing the conversation back to industry, because you touched on that a little bit earlier, what do you think that industry could be doing more of to help out the home grower?
You know, that that's tough. I mean, there's so many things, from using less plastics to focusing on more, like, less harmful products for the earth.
Yeah.
You know, just the runoff from synthetic salt-based nutrients is like, it's killing our topsoil, you know? And I mean, people laugh like, no, it goes down the drain and goes, well, where does it go after that? You know, it goes to the treatment system, and depending on your town's treatment system, most in America fucking suck, you know, it's just washing into somewhere. And probably I would say that, like, the industry really
cleaner, greener.
Yeah, they really need to get back to some more ancient methods. Like, I know people think that bigger is better, but man, there's damage that comes with bigger things.
Yeah, well, in industrializing farming, the way that we as a society have, we've taken and destroyed the system that served our forefathers so well for many years. And not to say that farming can't be industrialized, because it has to be. We're a species, we need to eat. But damn, man, there's far better ways to go about it.
And that's really the whole thing. Like, we did it this way out of almost necessity, you know, but we're past that point of necessity where we can actually take a step back and learn more from what was done in the past to where our future needs to be.
Yeah,
you know, because we're not going to have anything left.
We were there. I mean, before World War II, we were there. Regenerative farming was in place. People would take their scraps, they'd put them in the garden, but then, money, right?
The industrial revolution, man. Money, capitalism, World Bank. I mean, that's a whole nother show. But
yeah, no need to dive down that rabbit hole.
Sidebar.
Yeah. Oh, exactly. Matt and ChetterBob talk politics. So. Yeah. That might be a new series entirely on its own. Okay, well, bring her back around. What do you think? What do you feel not enough people know about or should be doing more of in the home garden?
Man, that ties right into that last question.
Yeah.
More sustainable growing. Trying to use less water. You know, I was just listening to a program, I think it was on NPR, which is National Public Radio here in the States. It was about cannabis and its water consumption and its carbon footprint.
Yeah.
And with the cannabis boom has come a gigantic, like, not only power grid, like, consumption, but water consumption has skyrocketed. It's you know, like, thinking more about what's outside of here that this is affecting, you know, and then getting inside there, like, I really think everyone should be growing in this style. I'm not going to knock people that don't, but I really think that if more people grew and were able to grow their cannabis in the same soil year after year after year, like I have for 4 years, I mean, there's you just see a drop off of so many negatives in the industry, you know?
Yeah. Let's put Fox Farms out of business.
Yeah, you know, like
I kid, but
I mean, that kind of stuff. It's just like we all know what they're doing and why they're doing it, you know? It's not for the love of the plant.
No, it's that other type of green that people love so much.
Yeah, the dirty green.
The dirty green. All right, well let's talk about what you have currently growing beside you there. Well, what do you got going on in the grow? Tell me about your current run.
So in here, this is currently a tester run of Boneyard Seeds, Mr. Filial Feel on IG, Mr. Toad on YouTube. This is his Bruce Banner Dark Horse's Bruce Banner #3 crossed with his Space Cheese, which is blue cheese crossed with his Angel. Ooh. So he sent me 10 seeds. I had 9 germinate. I planted 9 and I let them sex. I have 6 males, and so that's what's going on in here. And then behind me here,
you get the double height scrog there.
Yeah. So these are in day. What is today? The 4th or the 5th?
We're the 4th. Star Wars Day.
Okay, so these are in day 4 of flower.
Okay, so you just flipped them.
So over here, yeah, just flipped them. Over here is actually the mother of that tester strain. So this is the Bruce Banner #3, like not the Bruce Banner 3.0, not the Bruce Banner 3 back cross, but the clone only original Bruce Banner.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, so the reason he did that and he sent me that is because I haven't grown the Bruce Banner. I haven't grown the Space Cheese. So if I were to grow these out and say, hey, this one looks like the Space Cheese and this one looks like the Bruce Banner, I wouldn't know what I was talking about, you know?
Yeah.
So now growing the mother, I can differentiate. I can really say, hey, okay, this one is definitely leaning towards the mom and that one is definitely leaning towards the father. And then I also have a cherry pie right here.
That's a strain I've heard some real nice things about.
I have also heard some really great things about it. I don't know anything about it. I don't know who it's from. I don't know any background about it. But I figured if it was sent to me from Mr. Toad, I should probably have it.
Sounds like definitely a great grow that you have going on there. What are you doing to maintain and manage pests in your grow there, Cheddar?
So quarantine. Like, of
course, yeah.
Tony's clones were quarantined for about 2 weeks before anything was done, and those get. I actually I overmix this stuff. It's called Tweetman, and it's a plant wash, and it's just like ionized water, glycerin, some sodium. Some sodium borate and peppermint oil. Okay. And so I'll mix that in a solo cup. Probably about I use a heavy concentration, so like 2 ounces, and I'll fill the solo cup, and every day I'll just dunk the whole.
Just do a straight drench, yeah.
Yep, just a bleh, and I'll leave it there for about 20 seconds. Take it out and put it back, and I'll do that once a day for about 2 weeks in quarantine. And in these beds, I add predatory insects. Oh yeah. So probably about maybe 2 or 3 times a year, I'll order those. How do you say it? hyasposis.
Oh, the now known as the Stratiolaelaps simitus, and I've practiced that several times.
Okay, Stratio
Stratiolaelaps
Lalaps
simitus.
Stratiolaelaps simitus.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, the pest formerly known as hypoaspis.
Yeah, so I just call them H miles.
Yeah, that works too. Hypos.
Yeah, so I add those, 2 or 3 times a year.
Yep.
I have used mantids, like mantis eggs.
Okay, I've never tried that myself. That'd be an interesting one.
Man, those are a lot of fun.
I bet.
Like they're so cool. There's like 200, maybe 300 mantis that come out of these little eggs, and they're all over your plants, and they're just kind of jumping around and stuff. And they don't hurt you or anything, but it's a fun time to watch.
That's pretty cool.
But I use these for thrips.
Yep.
Which are cucumaris.
Yep.
Which are the plant canopy dwelling predatory mites. And I've used pirate bugs, minute pirate bugs.
Oh, not familiar.
Yep. So those are they're little brown bugs, and they have wings that I think they're like striped, sort of brown and black. And then they have like a long pointy nose. And so they actually go around, they're just like stabbing javelin shit with their nose, and then they're like, and then they eat it. So, but they're a huge thrip predator, as well as the cucumaris.
Yeah.
But yeah, I have some rove beetles in here.
Yeah. Oh, love the rove beetles.
Yeah, they go crazy.
Yep.
And but just lots of predatory insects. I hate using ladybugs. That's like my number one pet peeve for predatory insects, is when people tell people to use ladybugs, because they are like the dumbest insect for predatory insects I've come across. I mean, they fly into the lights, they just crawl on your plants. They don't really eat that much. Like it's the larvae that you want,
Yep.
Yeah.
No, I agree. I certainly like having that healthy diversity of biology in the soil to combat any pest problems that I may have.
Yeah. And then beyond like insects, I'll use some silica that I'll water in, and some insect frass and stuff like that, just to get that cell wall structure.
Stuff with chitin in it too. Some crab shell flour, or crab shell meal, that sort of thing. Yeah, no, I agree. Our grows, they run very, very similar.
and that's the cool thing about living soil, is like we can communicate with that. And even though our beds are obviously different, like we work with the same elements. So it's easy to talk about with someone.
Oh, totally. So if somebody was coming up and said, ChetterBob, I've never grown organic before, I've never grown before, what would you tell them to get started?
I would tell them to subscribe to my YouTube channel at ChetterBob13, and my Instagram at ChetterBob13. And secondarily, I would say go get some books by Jeff Lowenfels.
Totally.
So that you start to understand soil biology and what is going on in there, and why things are happening. Not just that things are happening, but why you are adding enzymes, and what the rhizosphere is doing. Not just that there's a rhizosphere, or what exudates are doing, or stuff like that. Get a little base of knowledge before you jump right in. It'll make it a lot easier. And just having the book beside you while you go is probably good enough. So
Yes.
books. I have this one written down, actually. Books and patience. Have patience.
Let the plants do their thing.
Patience, books. Look up look up white papers. Like there's a lot of old information about plant biology from like the 1920s and up to the 70s that still holds very firm to today.
Yeah.
So yeah, don't be afraid to dive a little deep before you go asking questions, because people answer questions and you just get the answer. You know, you really need to find out why that's the answer.
Yeah, understanding what that answer means really counts for a lot. Especially, I mean, there is that learning curve with organics, but I don't think that should really be a detractor. I mean, go get some good potting soil, stick a seed in there, water it. You're already growing organic. Don't get the bottled nutrients. They're only going to hurt things down the road. But if that's what works for you, that's what works for you.
Yeah, so, you know, some people have a lot of success with bottled nutrients, and that's fine. But there is an easier way, and a way that provides more of an onion effect. You know, the onion layers, the peel, the many layers, which living soil carries that bottle fed plants don't.
Couldn't agree more. So what do you think everybody should be using in the garden in terms of product? What product really stands out, should be in everybody's garden?
Living soil.
Ooh, good one.
I mean, yeah, I kind of touched on that earlier. You know, like I said, I'm not going to knock on people, but I know there's an easier, better way for our environment, ourselves. You know, so 4 years ago, I quit drinking, and
awesome.
I was like a boredom drinker. You know what I mean? Like, if I was sitting still, I was like, oh, fuck it, I might as well drink some beer. Like, I'm not doing anything else. And so growing cannabis has really afforded me the luxury to do something while I sit still.
Yeah.
That isn't drinking, you know, it and especially with living soil, you know, just the research factor and seeing things and being like, oh, what's that? And then going to find out what that is. It takes that boredom time away from me. So
absolutely. And you mentioned Build a Soil before. That's your go-to, guys? Anybody else that you like to purchase your organic stuff through?
You know, all of my dry amendments and stuff I get from Build a Soil, just because I trust them. I like them. They started off as a small company. Jeremy, I've never met him, but he seems like an absolute A1 human being. And that's the kind of
killing it, man.
Yeah, he's killing it, and he's killing it really in all the right ways. You know, he's doing it so green and so sustainably. It's like, I want to support something like that, you know.
Fantastic.
But I use Costa Maine soil, because to get his soil shipped from Colorado is just too expensive.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and that's the thing about organics too, is you don't have to necessarily get all the things from all the places. Go local, blah, 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 blah. Go local, man. Exactly. Couldn't have said it better myself.
Yeah, you know, and that's something I tell people. Like, so you see people like Blue who started, you know, with a Coots mix, you know, Clackalacus Coots. And you see people that start with like the Kiss Organics mix, or people that kind of do the Subcool mix and adapt that, or the Rev or Drake or whoever else. And those are fantastic. Like, yes, if you can, yes, absolutely start with that 3-part and then add in your amendments, DDA soil mix, stuff like that. Like, but let's be realistic. Not everyone can, not everyone will, not everyone wants to do that.
Yeah.
So I happen to fall in that latter category. I don't want to mix my soil like that. I just don't. I'm lazy. So I buy very good soil, the Stonington blend from Costa Maine, the platinum mix there. And I buy really good compost from Vermont. And I don't add worm castings because I have worms in here.
Yep.
And so that's how I started my beds. You know, a layer of those hydrogen at the bottom. Boom. And there's your living soil right there. And over 4 years, like it's no longer Costa Maine soil. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's now Cedric soil because I've made it my soil.
Yeah. That living
Thank you.
ecosystem.
Yeah. Thank you for the nice start, Costa Maine. I very much appreciate it. You got me off on the right foot.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah.
Well, ChetterBob, I mean, we've talked about a little bit about where folks can find you online. You've got the Instagram, you've got the YouTube. Anywhere else?
And I am on Canabuzz as well at ChetterBob13, and that's ChetterBob with 2 T's, not D's. So
yeah, for sure. Well, it'll be in the title and stuff. So look down there, guys.
Yeah.
Cool beans.
Somewhere.
All right, sir. Well, I'll give you the last question of the evening, and I'll let you get back to the garden, of course. What do you think the next big thing in cannabis is going to be, ChetterBob?
Oh man, so I mean, it's probably going to be a cultivar, but fuck that. You know, like the cultivar stuff is played. What I really think is going to be the next thing is the research and development of the mycelium network and the microbes and how those influence terpene production, flavonoids, you know, because you and I could grow the exact same cut in our soil and they're going to end up different because we have different soil biology.
Absolutely. Inputs are just different.
So now that we realize that, and now that money is going to start getting pumped into this cannabis research, I think we're going to start unlocking a lot quicker. And yeah, I think that's going to be like the next transformative sort of thing in cannabis.
Awesome answer, sir. Awesome answer. Well, guys, there you go. I mean, hey, this has been a fantastic chat with ChetterBob. If you're not following him on Instagram, go on over there. Do that now. Check out his YouTube channel. Check him out on Canabuzz. ChetterBob, absolutely appreciated you having you here on the show again.
I appreciate it, dude. It was a lot of fun, and I'm sure I'll be seeing you in the chats, and I'll, you know, more than happy to pop in whenever you need someone extra.
Oh, I don't think of you certainly as an extra, but definitely a featured guest, sir. And look forward to having you back on the show again very soon. Otherwise, I'm Matt. That's ChetterBob. Guys, we out.
Peace.